on the brain health. And there really should be more people here, but they might have forgot. So, I don't know. But the first thing we're going to do to get started is I'm actually going to have you guys look at this picture. This is really cool. It's called the picture of health. And you all have to kind of get up here to look at this. But there's two brain-related things in here. So if anyone can find one of them.
See the brain.
I got a T-shirt. So what is it?
The brain.
Right, but it's a health condition.
Oh. Brain-related condition?
Uh-huh.
Little pain in the ass?
That's this one.
Mm-hmm. I want to see the pain on the ass. I remember that one.
So this is one of them, and this is the other one. You have to figure out what they are.
Where's the pain on the ass? Oh, royal. Oh, okay. A brain in a trench.
Hey. Are fine?
A stroke. The first one's a stroke up there. Is that a
Nope.
stroke? No?
What is she doing?
Brain.
What is she doing to the brain? Close.
Kneading it?
Close.
Washing it?
Mm-hmm. What is that?
Brain cleansing?
Brainwashing.
Brainwashing.
Look at you!
I already have a shirt. I started it for you.
And this is the other one. It's a little harder. It's the mind is in a waste paper basket.
Mind is a terrible thing to waste. I don't want the shirt. I already got one.
Hey, maybe I'll give you this instead. This is a natural stress reliever.
Cool.
Do you want a shirt? Do you ever have one?
No, that's okay. I've
Okay.
got so many T-shirts.
Oh,
That's cool.
you don't have a Spirit of Health T-shirt.
Well,
No,
okay,
I'm just
give me
kidding.
one.
No,
I
that's
don't
cool.
want to make you feel bad.
No, I don't care.
Okay.
I'll give it to someone else.
Okay.
No, sweat it. All right. So we're going to talk about the brain tonight. Yes.
I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, you need a handout? Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, I was late.
And we're going to talk mostly about the physical aspects of the brain more than anything. We'll talk about memory and some other things like that. We're mostly going to focus on the physical aspects of the brain because my goal as a naturopath is to, help people have functioning brains well into old age. As I always talk about, usually in my classes, we can look at other cultures who are living to 100 years old and have sharp minds and perfect memories, and it's totally possible. A lot of it's the product of the environment. And the brain, more than anything else, kind of like when we talk about the heart, the brain, you really need to practice preventative medicine. It starts today. Because Alzheimer's and these kind of diseases don't just randomly strike people. Okay, it's something that happens over the course of years. So maintaining health every day is going to maintain, your brain function for the long term. So the brain is super critical when it comes to prevention. So some fascinating facts about the brain. I mean, the brain's a crazy giant mystery. Like, so much we've learned about the brain, and it's one of those things where the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know. I mean, the brain is so crazy, intense, and complicated. We have no idea where emotions come from and thoughts come from and these kind of things. There's tons of people studying the brain. But again, we're going to focus more on the physical aspects of the brain. And of course, the brain is so critically important because it's everything as far as our physical, our motor skills, our thought process. I mean, everything's controlled by the brain. We know the brain's the control center. So just like the heart, you want to take care of it more than anything else. You really, really want to take care of your brain. But how many people consciously think that we need to take care of our brains? Okay, have I taken care of my brain today? Okay, we don't really think of that, but we do think about taking care of our heart and maybe taking care of our liver and things like that. But we really need to think about taking care of our brain. And one of the easiest way to do that is to get into some repetitive things that you do over and over that we'll talk about later, some things that build brain health. And I'll use a couple members of my family as an example. So, just a real quick thing. I talk a lot about chiropractic care and how important chiropractic care is. A couple of you are going to see Dr. Joe, who's a great chiropractor. Chiropractic is so important because the brain is the control center for everything, And it's those brain signals going down through the spine and through nerve connections that controls every single part of the body. Okay, so if you don't have good brain function, then it starts to lose communication with the spine, and then things will start to degenerate and not work properly. So another reason you want to have good chiropractic care. Yes?
You know what, I've been going to a chiropractor for years and years and years and years, but I've noticed since I've started coming here, since I've given up sugar, since I've started changing the diet and everything, I don't have the neck pain, I don't have the shoulder pain, I'm standing taller, it's not a struggle to get out of bed and I'm not feeling the pain.
Cool.
That's one thing I've really noticed a lot since I've changed the whole eating habit and taking care of myself.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So, you want to practice, if you're not seeing a chiropractor, I highly recommend it because you want your spine aligned and you want it working. But at the same time, I think a lot of people have this false perception maybe, and I don't know if this happened with you, but a lot of people think that all their aches and pains and back issues and neck problems are a problem with the spine. So they go see a chiropractor. But, you can have frozen shoulder from having a clogged colon, and you get a colon cleanse and your frozen shoulder disappears. So there can be a lot of other things going on with the body. So don't assume it's chiropractic, but it's a good thing to make sure that it's aligned and working properly for that purpose. So some of the really cool things about the brain, it's 3 pounds. Okay, it's basically water and fat. Okay, so if you want to visualize what the brain looks like, come on in.
Okay.
Here's a handout.
Thank you. Water and fat brain.
So the brain is water and fat. Okay, and I say that because those are the important physical attributes of the brain, and those are the main things we need to focus on when it comes to long-term brain health. Water and fat and minerals. I always talk about minerals, so we'll talk more about that later. We do continue to generate brain neurons and pathways, and it's constant, it's continuous. This whole concept or this thought process that we only have a certain amount of brain connections or brain pathways, and then as we age it degenerates and we start to lose them, is a total myth, and we know that now. We know that every time you have a new memory, or every time you learn a language, or every time you do something, you grow new networks. So it's a constant process well into old age. So you never ever want to stop using your brain. Kind of use it or lose it kind of thing. Nothing more important than that with the brain. It's called neuroplasticity is kind of the term they called it. Your brain consists of 100 billion neurons. Okay, those 100 billion neurons should stay healthy until you die. Okay, genetics don't cause you to lose neurons. Eating too much sugar and drinking alcohol and doing drugs and not using your brain will cause you to lose neurons. Okay, but normally if they stay healthy, just like any other part of your body, if you keep it healthy, they will continue to function for you well into old age. Anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 synapses for each neuron. You can't even fathom the amount of connections that are going on in the brain. They say that there's more connections in the brain than there are stars in the universe. If you could even fathom that. Okay, you've heard that the brain is more powerful than any supercomputer on Earth. And, there's guys that do chess matches against the computer to see who's smarter, if the man's smarter than a computer. And, just amazing things people are doing. But there's 100,000 miles of blood vessels in your brain. 100,000 miles. That's 4 times around the Earth. So the brain needs a lot of blood, needs a lot of oxygen, needs a lot of water, needs a lot of fats. Got to feed your brain. 1/5 of the human blood supply is used by the brain. Okay, so the brain's 3 pounds, but it uses 1/5 of the blood. And your brain is also the fattest organ in your body. Very high in fats as well.
So when they call you fathead, that is not an insult.
Fathead is a compliment, absolutely. You say, thank you. Let's see, what else? Did you get a handout? Okay.
Yes,
The way I like to picture the brain is it's a giant, I talk about the body sometimes this way, it's like a giant ocean of electrical activity. Because you picture the brain, you just picture things firing and neurotransmitters firing and neurons and connections being made and like little sparks of electrical energy. Okay, that's how you want to picture your brain functioning. And there's certain things and there's certain nutrients you need to make sure that continues to happen throughout your life. So this is interesting on the developing brain. A newborn baby's brain grows about 3 times its size in the first year. So we know that children at a young age can learn tremendous amounts of information, right? I think the problem with that is that we assume as we get into adulthood that we can't learn new things. How many people are, I don't care what age you are, 30, 40, 50, 60, and they're like, man, I wish I would have learned Spanish. And I'm like, go learn Spanish. I don't care how old you are. Go learn a language. Just with anything, if you take a class, people go back to school in their 40s and 50s all the time. They go to those classes and they memorize things and learn things just like anyone else. So don't set your mind, that it can't do something. You have to just continue to work it and continue to believe that you can do anything. And that's critical to brain function. We set those parameters on ourselves. So let's see, let's go. Brain function. Your brain uses 20% of the total oxygen. So a fifth of the total blood and 20% of your total oxygen for a little 3-pound piece of your body. Okay? So it uses a lot of resources, lots and lots of resources in your body. Anybody here ever had a hangover? You can admit it, I've had lots of them in my past. Thank you. That is the brain starving for oxygen. That's all it is. The brain starving for oxygen and water. It's dehydration. It's the ultimate in dehydration. Okay, that is the extreme of dehydration. So, if you still drink water in between your alcohol and you won't have a hangover because you're dehydrated. They say, and I learned a lot of some of this stuff from Quick Learning. I give his website later in here, this guy named Jim Quick. And it's funny that he teaches memory and learning and things like that, and his last name is Quick. And he says, no, that's my real name. I didn't change my name or anything. But it's called Quick Learning Center. And he says that you have 60,000 thoughts every single day. He also says that 95% of the thoughts you have every day are the same thoughts you had yesterday. Which is why so many people can't get things done. Because they think every day over and over about the same things they should do or the same things they shouldn't do or the things they didn't do last week that they should do, and they think about it every day, and it kind of consumes them. And it keeps them from accomplishing things. So that's why it's real important when you do to-do lists and things like that to actually do the things on your to-do list. Otherwise, you'll think about it every single day until you do it. Unless you forget it, but that's another part of it. So, if your brain loses blood for 8 to 10 seconds, you will lose consciousness. Your brain generates the amount of electricity to power a light bulb. Again, it's an electrical activity going on up there. I didn't mention it in the first part, but how the brain, I think everybody's kind of heard this, that the brain doesn't have any pain receptors. Has anybody seen Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah.
Do you remember that part?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Where he's opening the guy's brain and he's picking at it and stuff. You don't feel it. There's no pain centers in the brain. Yeah, it's really weird. The brain can live for 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen and it begins to die. And this was interesting. A study of 1 million students. They took high school students in New York. And they studied 1 million students. And the ones who did not do any artificial flavors, colors, preservatives, additives, those kind of things in their food did significantly better on tests. Their percentage was 14% better. So those additives and all that stuff in our food supply really affects our brain health, which we'll talk more about. Psychology of your brain. I know everybody's tried this, tried to tickle yourself. Okay? Your brain is smarter than that. It knows what an external source is and it knows who you are. So that's why you can't tickle yourself. Okay? It knows who you are. And you can try all different kind of tips and tricks to tickle yourself, but the brain still knows it's you. So, memory. Okay, so let's talk about memory real quick.
Quick, take a long time, please.
Okay, let's talk about memory. You program your own brain. Okay, I am one of the worst when it comes to deprogramming my brain and programming my brain incorrectly. I think almost everybody does this when it comes to names. How many people say, oh, I never forget, I never remember names. I'm horrible with names, but I never forget a face. If you tell yourself that every day, you've just programmed your brain to never ever remember a name. And I noticed that. Somebody tells me their name, and literally within 5 seconds, I've totally forgot it. Because I've made no conscious effort to remember that name, because I tell myself every day and every week that I can't remember names. And you know what? Since I read this, And it doesn't sound like the most obvious thing in the world. But when I made the conscious effort to say, I'm good with names. I'm good with people's names. When somebody tells me a name, I make the conscious effort to remember that name. And we'll talk about some things you can do that are pretty cool. I started remembering names. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And there's some little tricks you can do. And in Quick's Learning Center, I watched this like hour video on him, and it was pretty cool. One of the things he talks is, it's called Be Suave. You know, suave, like Rico Suave. So Be Suave. The B stands for believe. Okay, he said, when we fight for limitations, we receive them. So if you tell yourself every day that you have a horrible memory and that you can't remember names, you're going to receive that. Okay, you've programmed your brain. Just Steve and I were talking before class how I said I'm going to do a 30-day fast, and at 28 days I was done. He said he was going to do a 12-day fast, and at 10 days he was done. Because we programmed our minds that that was as far as we were going to be able to go in that fast. And because it was pre-programmed, that's what it came out to be. And I'm starting to realize that more and more how true that is. So the B is believe. Believe you have a good memory. Believe you can do these things, you can remember things. E is exercise. Practice makes progress. So you have to use your brain. Again, these are obvious things, but it's one of those things where like either somebody needs to emphasize it to you, you actually need to put it into practice, or maybe it's just being ready for the information. You know, you can talk till you're blue in the face about someone about changing their health or this and that, but all of a sudden they get diabetes and they'll listen to whatever you say. Or they go in for a heart attack and they come out and they're like, okay, I do want to live longer, what do I do? You know, sometimes it takes being ready for the information. And when it comes to memory, you know, I have a business. I have to remember people's names. That's pretty important. If I talk to somebody and we have a good conversation, I don't remember their name, that shows I didn't really care that much about that person. And you can't do that in business. So that's one of the things you learn in business. Has anybody ever heard of Dale Carnegie? Mm-hmm. Okay, when I worked corporate, I went to Dale Carnegie classes, and we learned tips and tricks to remember names and things like that. You know, because that's really important in business. So the E is exercise, use it. S is say it. Okay, so when you hear someone's name, say it, repeat it. You know, Steve. Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you. Repeat the name. You know, that tells them that you heard their name. Okay. The U.
What's my name?
I don't remember. See?
Here's a funny one. It's Steve.
Oh, that's hilarious. So see, I wasn't practicing my own techniques that I've learned. So the U is use the name. Use the name intelligently. Like repeat it in a sentence. Okay? Now, I didn't do that when I first met you, did I?
Yeah.
So, A, ask them about their name. You know, especially if it's a unique name. You know, like, where'd you get that name? Or, you know, how do you pronounce it again? Or, you know, something. Ask them something about it, because that'll trigger something in your mind oftentimes. V is to visualize the name. And Dale Carnegie was real big on that. Visualizing the person's name. Put it into a picture. Maybe just visualize the name itself in a certain letter, a certain font, or, you know, looking in a just when you visualize things, you remember them more. You hear some people learn more by seeing. Some people can, they're visual learners. I mean, I guess that's what they call them, visual learners. People remember by seeing pictures and things like that. So visualize it, and then E is end with their name. So let's say you just had a 10-15 minute conversation. I guarantee you, when Steve is leaving tonight, I'm going to say, see you later, Steve, nice to meet you. Because you should use the name at the end of the conversation as well, just so you remember it, and they know that you remembered it. Okay? So that's be suave. And I didn't have that in the handout, so if you wrote that down. So some other things with the memory. Every time you recall a memory or have a new thought, you create a new connection in your brain. And again, they've proved this through science. They've actually shown, you can actually see like the little neurotransmitter reaching out and creating a new connection. Okay, every time you learn something new. Memory is triggered, and I think everyone has examples of this. Memory is triggered by scent, have a strong emotional connection. So, you know, I smell fresh cut grass. You know, it makes me think of when I was a kid and outside playing and mowing the lawn or whatever. You know, everyone has smells that they connect to things. A lot of people like the barbecue smell. I mean, I smell that, it instantly brings back thoughts and memories and things like that. So smells can trigger strong emotional reactions too, and memories. And then lack of sleep can really affect your brain function too, and your memory skills. So your brain will continue to develop. It will continue to develop. I can't stress that enough. It continues to develop. So use it every single day. What do I give the? That's at the end. I give a couple of websites that are cool to go to where you can kind of exercise your brain and practice your brain skills. So a way to describe it is your brain is like a muscle. Okay, people have probably heard that before. So you have to continue to use it and continue, again, just reinforce the fact that you can remember things, you can learn something new. If you're 50 years old and you want to learn Spanish, you can learn Spanish. Okay? If something happened in your life where, I don't know, you got a job transfer and there was no way you could say no because they're going to pay you like $300,000 a year, but you had to move to Spain and you had to learn Spanish. Oh, I think most people might suck it up and learn Spanish, even if it was for a couple years, just to like kind of build up some retirement money. So when the time really comes that you want to do something, you'll do it. So don't make it something you have to force. Make it something you enjoy doing. There's all kinds of brain activities that people do that are fun. You just got to find one that works for you. I'll seriously sit and stare at this thing for 10, 15 minutes some days to try to find new things in there. Anything like that. That's why these things are so fun. Let's see. I want to talk a little bit about some diseases of the brain, quote unquote diseases of the brain. I'm a strong believer that unless you had a head trauma, okay, you were a boxer or something like that, all brain diseases are cumulative. Okay, we very rarely hear of really super young people having diseases, brain diseases. Okay, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, it does. Okay, because there's environmental things that can cause it to happen sooner than it should. Especially people working in mines and caves and being surrounded by a lot of those pollutants and things can develop brain tumors much quicker. But for the most part, it's cumulative. Okay, it can strike you when you're 50, 60, 70, 80. And then people get Alzheimer's or they're diagnosed with Alzheimer's and they what do I do? They'll do anything to reverse it. Well, I hate to say it, even in natural medicine, but it's really, really, really hard to reverse something like that. I'm a firm believer that anything can be reversed, and I think it can be reversed. But if you let it go and it hits you when you're 80 or 90, well, it's going to be a little more challenging to reverse a health condition at 80 or 90. And we know some links to things like Alzheimer's. But I think the number one thing with Alzheimer's, with the stuff I've read, it's not taking care of yourself where you were younger. Because what they've actually found with people who have Alzheimer's is their brain is smaller. It's shrunk. And it's fallen into the back of their skull. Okay? That's easy to do. They just run a test, a CAT scan or whatever, and they can see the brain's smaller. It's shrunk. It's dehydrated. It's fallen into the back of their skull. So if you don't take care of your brain, remember your brain uses lots of blood, lots of oxygen, lots of water. So if you don't feed it continuously every single day, eventually it's going to shrivel up and die just like anything else. So you got to keep it functioning day to day. So if you don't want to have Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that, it's got to start today. Now if you actually have those things, there are some things you can do. You can rehydrate the body. You can remineralize the body. You can put the things back into the body that brain function needs, and we'll talk more about those
Is Parkinson's
in detail.
a brain thing?
Not really. That's more of a nerve thing, but it could be connected to brain function as well. But mainly a nervous disorder. So, couple other things. ADD and ADHD. Okay. Most of ADD and ADHD, I believe, is a bunch of bull. I believe a lot of the times it's just kids being kids. But it's a fact that so many of these chemicals in our food supply are causing problems with children. There's no doubt about it. There's 2 products. They just seem to work. I put this combination together and I give it to moms with kids, and sometimes the moms do it too. And they totally are more focused, more grounded, more relaxed, more calm. Teachers are writing notes to the parents saying how much improved their kid is. And it's an herbal product that actually builds the adrenal glands. If you were here for the adrenal gland, we talked about how much the adrenal function affects the brain and everything else as well. and an essential fatty acid, the good fats that feed the brain, that feeds the nerve cells to the brain. And those two products have worked for pretty much every child I've given it to. So, but the thing I always tell the parents, in addition to, is you have to cut out the sugar. So, I don't think a class has yet gone by where sugar didn't come into the mix. Okay, sugar destroys the body and it destroys the brain. It destroys brain function. The easiest way to look at it, I started comparing sugar to alcohol. Because I watched this, and I'm going to talk about it in real detail of like kind of the science behind how sugar is a poison. I'm doing another sugar addiction class at the Tasteful Olive next month. But chemically, if you understand the way processed sugar works, it does the exact same thing in the body and to the body that alcohol does. So if you're a sugaraholic, eating processed sugar every day and you can't control yourself, you're basically an alcoholic. Because it breaks down into acetaldehyde, which is a straight poison to the body. It dehydrates the body, it dehydrates the brain, and it causes rapid brain degeneration. So we know alcoholics have these problems, but we don't think other people have these problems because they're not alcoholics.
I've worked in addictions, and I've heard a lot of people say that have worked in addictions for a long time, that there is a connection between people that have alcohol addiction and sugar.
Right.
They seem to replace one with the other.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, unfortunately, that's what will happen is they'll get off the alcohol, which is great, but then they'll do the processed sugar because it feeds that same mechanism that the alcohol was triggering and actually causes the exact same diseases. The depression, the hypoglycemia, liver failure, fatty liver, all those same things. If you eat a lot of sugar, you're going to get the same diseases. And that goes for the brain too. Okay. Depression, yeah, same thing. Depression mostly is based on what we eat. Sure, there's people that are dealing with crazy stuff in life. Life is not easy by any means. A lot of trauma, a lot of horrible things happen in people's lives. But a lot of it has to do with the food they eat. You know, we know almost all alcoholics are depressed. They just are. It depresses the nervous system. It depresses the immune system. It depresses the body. That's why they call it depression. So it's not just your mood that's depressed. It's everything in your body's been depressed. And it's hard to break out of that cycle. And sugar will have that same effect that alcohol does. So you need to open up the body. You know, if you're a sugaraholic, if you're an alcoholic, you know, you need to put quality foods back in the body if you want to have better mood and better brain function. And sometimes the body forgets how to communicate. The brain forgets how to communicate with the spine. I was talking about the brain to spine connection. I have a product, it's a homeopathic product, it's called Neuro 1. It works crazy good. I give it to people that have depression. It reminds the brain how to use dopamine and serotonin because it forgets, because the system has been depressed for so long that the body forgets how to use things. So sometimes you have to wake the body back up. That's a lot of what homeopathic medicine is. It's waking the body back up of something that it has forgotten how to do. Okay, so there's lots of things we can do. Any other brain-related illnesses? I mean, I mentioned a couple, but okay. Let's talk about how to.
The adrenal herbal that you mentioned.
The adrenal herbal product?
Yeah, you said that with ADD and
It's a product called Focus. That's the name of it. Yeah, I can show it to you after. So, and by the way, just side note, so I'm talking about ADD, ADHD, sugar. It's the building of the adrenal glands that helps people with their sugar addictions and helps people to focus, because the adrenal glands get majorly wiped out when we eat sugar. It has to constantly produce steroids and hormones to offset the sugar, which is poison to the body. And that's how the body offsets poison, is with hormones, with steroids. So that's why it damages the adrenals. Okay, so, a couple other thoughts. I have this in the wrong place, but just to mention them. A couple other good things to remember when it comes to brain health and memory and things like that is, one is be childlike. Okay, childs use their imaginations, and we kind of forget how to do that as we get older. So be childlike in your approach to remembering things, even if it's a stupid song or a game or something, you know, relate things, but be a child. And then a phrase that's really cool is, don't grow old, grow better. Okay, have the right mindset when it comes to aging. Grow better. Okay, so 10 steps to brain health. The first 3 are, I think, the most critical. I mean, they're all important, but what's the brain made of? Again, as a naturopath working with a lot of physical symptoms with people, you know, I'm not a counselor or anything like that, you know, but my focus is on the physical aspects of the body. And when it comes to the physical aspects of the brain, what's it made of? It's made of water, it's made of minerals, that's what makes everything fire, that's the connections, and it's made of fat. Okay? So you have to be properly hydrated, that's key. Okay, so to be properly hydrated, a couple people haven't been here before, but others, you have shoved this down your throat like 17 times. But people aren't drinking the right water. They're drinking reverse osmosis water, distilled water, bottled water. It's dead, lifeless water. It's not hydrating the body. You're not getting the minerals to your brain and to your body parts. So you have to put minerals back in the water. Okay? The key thing with all cultures around the world who live well into their hundreds and healthy is they live in mountainous regions and they have fresh mountain spring water. We're not that lucky. Okay, so we have to do the best we can, and you have to add minerals back into the water for proper hydration. There's no way around it. And the brain is the thing that needs more water than anything else.
So you mix something in the water that you drink?
Yeah, I have, it's black mica from volcanic activity. You add it to the water, pulls all the impurities out and actually fall out. They fall on the bottom. You can see it. Like if it's tap water, you'll see orangish brown junk at the bottom. Adds 100 minerals and other trace elements back into the water. It literally tastes like spring water. Can anyone attest to that?
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, quite a few of you. I mean, it makes water taste how it's supposed to taste, and people get hydrated for the first time. I have people who hate water because, well, they're sugar addicts. You know, all they've had is soda and fruit juices their whole life. They like water now because this is how water's supposed to taste. Kids who are addicted to fruit juices like water now. My oldest client's 91 years old. She would not drink water because we actually lose the thirst mechanism as we age. We forget to be thirsty as we get older. Doesn't mean you don't need water. So she's 91 and she wouldn't drink water before, and now her mom was telling me this, Judy. You guys, some of you know Judy. She's like, if she's got her water right there and you get closer, she's like, don't touch my water.
Yeah.
She loves water now because this is how water's supposed to taste. People get sloshy stomach from drinking water. You won't get sloshy stomach if you got the right water because it'll actually absorb into the body.
What was the name of the product?
It's Adya, A-D-Y-A. Oh yeah, it's right here. I forgot I had this stuff up here. So hydration. Critically important. Again, if you're going to do things that dehydrate the body, if you're going to drink coffee, fine, drink more water. You know, if you're going to drink fruit juices, you know, drink more water. Everything else you drink has a dehydrating effect on the body. We talked, the kidney class was really good, if anybody's interested in hydration, about the exact effect that dehydration has on the body when it comes to kidney health and how the body starts to, I like to freak people out. So basically the urine you can't eliminate the way it's supposed to, that urine's floating through your blood, and those toxins and poisons start to deposit in your joints. That's arthritis. That's gout. That's things like that. So hydration is critical. I totally skipped taking omega-3 fats just because I love to talk about water and minerals so much. But taking omega-3 fatty acids, okay? Yeah, tons of research has been done on this. I mean, everybody's heard about good fats and brain health and how important it is for the brain. Doctrine of signatures, okay? A walnut, you open it up, it looks like a brain, right? Omega-3 fatty acids, okay? Most people know that, they have heard that. So I talk a lot about 3, 6, 9, you don't really need to worry about that. 3s and 6s. I talk a lot about 6s because that's what you need for muscle health, for heart health, for skin health, for beauty, things like that. It's the 6s. That's your sunflower oil, your sesame oil, your pumpkin oil, your seed oils. Okay, but when it comes to brain health, it's omega-3s, omega-3s, omega-3s. Okay, so that's your flax and that's your fish, mainly. Okay, so those are your 2 best sources of that. And your nuts, you know, walnuts and things like that will have good amounts of omega-3s in it too.
Flaxseed, or they have, which one do they have?
Flax is the 3.
3?
Your highest source of your highest source of omega-3s is fish and flax, period. Nothing even comes close.
And you have to grind them?
It's best to probably do the flax oil if you want to get the benefits of it. If you just grind the seeds, you're getting some, but you're mostly getting fiber. So the flax oil is really good to do. And you can mix it in oatmeal or yogurt. Like, it's so easy to use, totally versatile. But it's the omega-3s that you need for brain health. The other thing you might have heard a lot about is EPA and DHA. You guys heard of that? Mm-hmm. Okay. The reason EPA and DHA there's a little controversy over this. I don't want to call it controversy, but some people say you have to do fish oil, have to do fish oil, have to do fish oil. Okay? Udo's, he's all plant-based, he's all seed oils. He's like, you don't really need to do fish oils. You get the same benefit from flax and nuts and seeds and things like that. Well, their whole thing is EPA and DHA. Those are from fish. They're in fish, they're in fish, they're in fish. Well, the reason they're in fish is because EPA and DHA are from algae, and algae eat fish. Okay? So Udo's is like, okay, you want your DHA? Fine. Here's my Udo's oil, and I've added DHA to it. He just added algae to it. Okay? So if you're vegetarian or vegan, or you don't want to do fish for whatever reason, or you don't like the taste of fish, you wouldn't taste fish in that. But some fish oils are fishy, you know? So you can get those nutrients, the DHA and EPA, by consuming the algae. So that means spirulina, chlorella, you know, all those algae some of you guys are doing or have done, all those are going to have DHA and EPA. Now what's really interesting is they've linked a lack of DHA to postpartum depression, because the babies need a lot, okay? Again, it's brain function. So the baby's developing, the brain's got baby's got a brain it needs to make, it's got a nervous system it needs to make, so it needs a lot of fats. So it'll suck all those fats out of mom. That's kind of a weird way I term that, but it'll take a lot of nutrients from mom. So a lot of women will get postpartum depression because they're essential fatty acid deficient. So very important if you know anyone who's a mom or expectant mom, to really increase their good fat intake, because the baby needs it and mom needs it. And you know, baby first, mom gets leftovers. So that's really important. The other thing that's really interesting is they did a study in India on people who don't eat fish at all. They had just the amount of DHA in their brains as people who lived on coastal regions and eat fish. So the other argument is that we naturally produce DHA and EPA in our brain if we have a good healthy system and good fats in our system. So you don't have to overly worry about the DHA and EPA, in my opinion. Yeah.
How much omega-6 should we have?
How much?
Yeah.
Udo recommends 1 tablespoon of oil per 50 pounds of body weight. That's overall. Okay? When it comes to the ratios, you'll hear a million different things. Okay? I think 2 to 1 is a good ratio of 3s to 6s.
Okay.
But you have to have good 6s. Okay? Has anybody heard about like how 6s are bad for you and stay away from omega-6s?
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just so you know, the reason that is because of all the processed, heated garbage that's in our food supply. Okay? When you go to the store and you buy sunflower oil and canola oil and what else do they have? All those cooking oils, those things are poison. Okay? That's where you're getting damaging omega-6s. Good omega-6s come from raw sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds, and hemp is probably the best source of omega-6s. So I'd say 2 to 1. So I'd say if you're doing, I don't know, just as an example, a couple tablespoons of flax oil a day, a tablespoon of like pumpkin oil or hemp oil, and then like a tablespoon of coconut oil would be like a perfect ratio for like a 200-pound person. Okay, 50 pounds, 1 tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight. But nobody's probably going to go through all that trouble. So I don't stress about it, you know. I think a good combination is doing, here's another really interesting point.
Sorry.
Coconut oil. You guys know I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of coconut oil for a million reasons. But one of the main reasons is because it's a good fat. It's a saturated fat. We need saturated fat. Okay? Again, when baby's developing breast milk, it's saturated fat. That's what helps the baby grow. So you need coconut oil, you need avocados. Those are good sources of saturated fat. Okay? It feeds the glandular system. It feeds the hormonal system. They're a hormone precursor, so what helps you make hormones. I say all this because when it comes to omega-3s, if you have a coconut oil, a saturated fat in your body, along with an omega-3, it makes it work twice as good. So omega-3s, omega-6s, along with coconut oil, because coconut oil is a totally different animal. It doesn't have 3s or 6s or any of that. It's saturated fat, okay, and it works totally differently in the body. But they work really good in combination together. And a lot of studies have been done on coconut and brain health. Okay, so I'm a big fan of coconut. So, any questions so far on water, minerals, or fats? Because it's probably the most 3 critical nutrients you need to feed yourself with every day. And if you've ever looked at, if anybody's ever seen my handout, I call the Foundation for Health. I give it to people because people don't know how to supplement. People are taking all kinds of supplements from the health food store, and that's fine. You know, I have a health food store. But there's 5 things you need to be putting in your body because it's these 5 things that do thousands and thousands of functions in your body. CoQ10 is great, but it doesn't do 1,000 functions in your body. Okay, minerals do, fats do, water does. Okay, so you have to focus on those things before you take anything else.
Name the 5 again.
I just named 3: water, minerals, fats, greens. So a good greens powder with like wheatgrass, barley grass, alfalfa grass, those kind of things. And then the 5th one is probiotics. Your good healthy flora, good healthy bacteria. So those are the 5 things that everyone should be putting in their body. And you know, you don't have to take probiotics if you eat cultured foods every day. You know, some people eat cultured foods, but a lot of people don't. So just make sure you're getting them in some way. The 3rd thing, challenging the brain, challenging the brain, challenging the brain. So many studies on this, it's ridiculous. I read a study on Alzheimer's. There was an organization who was working with people with Alzheimer's. They were forcing them, even though obviously, imagine teaching somebody with Alzheimer's a new language. You imagine that would be a challenge? Mm-hmm. Okay, they made these people learn a new language that had Alzheimer's. They reversed Alzheimer's by forcing them to learn a new language. Because it totally opened up and changed new pathways in the body. Okay, so if you force your brain to work, you can reverse disease and illness. Okay, when I said I was going to use a family member as an example, I got to use my grandma, my dad's dad, Grandma Ellie. This lady has done crossword puzzles. How long has she been doing crossword? Was she doing crossword puzzles when you were a kid?
Oh yeah. Really?
This gal has been doing crossword puzzles since he was a kid. You can pull like the hardest crossword puzzle out of the New York Times and she'll finish it in an hour. She's crazy intelligent. She does crossword puzzles every morning. She reads, I mean, it's Harlequin romance novels. They're kind of, you know, romance books or whatever. But she reads every single day, you know? Her, I mean, I have never met someone at her age that was so sharp. I mean, crazy sharp.
Of a 20-year-old.
Oh my gosh, she's brilliant, sharp. I mean, picks up on things, witty, because she's used her brain every day since she was young.
How about
Okay.
a diet?
Huh?
She eats well.
You know what? She's not into nutrition or anything like that. So, you know, she drinks coffee and, you know, they eat.
Shouldn't overdo the sugar.
No, they probably don't overdo sugar and stuff like that, but they'll eat donuts sometimes in the morning. They'll have coffee. You know, they kind of do a lot of the things that typical Americans do.
They're not obsessive about it.
They're not obsessive about it at all. You know, and yeah, so it just goes to show you that, you know, you can have an average diet, whatever you want to call it, and still have a super crazy sharp brain because she used it. Now, she didn't know how important the water was and the minerals were and the fats were. Heck, you know, I'm not going to talk to my grandma about omega-3 fatty acids. You know what I mean?
She's doing okay.
Yeah, she's doing okay. So, you know, that's just a perfect example of, you know, that you just, it starts today. It starts today. So find something you enjoy. Okay, there's something that I do a lot that I found, and I gave you the website. It's called Lumosity. Lumosity. Lumosity.com. I bought my mom a subscription for her birthday. It's brain games. It's brain puzzle games. And it's fun. It's like addicting fun. Like, I used to be addicted to video games. Like, I was a video game junkie. So I had to, like, throw all that stuff away. But I will sit and play this for a couple hours sometimes. But I don't mind it if it's something that's actually challenging my brain and challenging my mind. And you notice what's cool about it is the way they have it set up is they make it incrementally harder. If you pass a level, it gets harder and harder and harder. And you can see how much better your brain function gets just in a couple hours playing the same game over and over. Again, you're creating all kinds of new brain waves and pathways just by playing these games, just by looking at this picture, by learning a new language. I learned French. I started taking French when I was in 7th grade. And I just liked the language. Don't ask me why. I liked the language. I took it all through high school. When I was in college, I was a business major. But I liked French, so I would just take 1 or 2 French classes each semester just for kicks and giggles because I liked the French language. Ended up, by the time I was at my senior year, I only needed like 2 classes to finish a French degree. So, and I moved to France because you hear so much people took a language. Anybody take a language in high school and don't remember a word? I mean, yeah, it happens. But I made it a point that I invested a lot of time in this language. So I took it through college, and I moved to France. When I worked corporate, the company I worked for just happened to buy a company who had offices in France. So I moved to France, and I lived in France. And I lived in a city where nobody spoke English. And that was 11 years ago. And you know what? If a French person walks through my door, I can have a perfect conversation with them. And unfortunately, I only get to speak French 5 or 6 times a year. But you remember it if you use it.
I'm sure there's a French club around here.
There is, the
somewhere.
Alliance Française. It's in Kansas City. I need to call them. I'm glad you reminded me. 'cause
I did, I just reminded you.
Yeah. Let me visualize that, okay?
Paula
Alliance
reminded you. I'll
Française.
test you on the name later.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Got it. Puts a lot of pressure on me doing a class like this. Okay, so the fourth, and then the other, I gave you the Jim Quick's website, thequicklearning.com. He does all kinds of seminars and stuff where he
Is
teaches
he
people.
local?
No, he's not local. He's not local. But he's got all kinds of different things you can do. And you know, here's another fun one that's just a family example. I don't know if anyone else has any other examples. But we play a game, my parents and I, since I was a kid. We called it I'm Going on a Camping Trip. And we'd say, I'm going on a camping trip, and I'm taking
Raisin.
aloe vera gel. Well, we'd go through the alphabet, A through Z.
Oh.
And she'd say aloe vera gel, and then my dad would have to go aloe vera gel and broccoli. And I'd say aloe vera gel, broccoli, and whatever, you know, and we just go all the way through the alphabet.
Cool. Yeah.
And it's fun, you know, it's fun. So just find stuff like that, you know, just to keep your brain young. Yes?
I've got a cute story. I work at a senior living community, and I'm the marketing person for independent living. I have a resident that's 105. She just, in independent living, she plays bridge every day. She remembers names. She remembers dates. She's visually impaired now, but she's very cool. When she turned 100, I wished her a happy birthday, and she said, you know, I'm 100 now. I probably should start using a walker. So because she started using a walker, and a month ago I saw her and said, well, how are you doing? And she said, well, you know, I'm 105, and I don't recommend it. Isn't it marvelous?
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I just made, this is a totally random thought, but it's related. How we program our brains. A good example is, unfortunately, they say it's positive reinforcement, but it's really not. It's negative reinforcement. I'm not a big fan of circuses. But how can they hook up an elephant to a post in the ground, and he doesn't rip out that post and run away?
Yeah.
Because he's been trained, unfortunately through negative reinforcement, but he's been trained that if he gets beyond a certain length, he's going to get reprimanded. He's going to get smacked or whatever. So here's this how many thousands of pound creature that's tied to a post this big that he could rip out just going like this, and he doesn't do it because his brain has been programmed that he can't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a kind of a nice little lesson to remember. So exercising. Before I started class, just so I'd be pumped up and full of oxygen before the class, I cellular-sized on my cellular-sizer rebounder. Totally opens up the brain, opens up blood flow, brings oxygen straight to the brain because of that working against gravity force. Okay, a big fan of the cellular-sizer rebounder. Any kind of exercise, just walking, anything, but exercise is key because remember the brain uses a lot of oxygen. Okay, so you got to keep oxygen flowing to it. Sleeping well, sleeping is critical. Everything heals when you're sleeping. That includes your brain. Okay, so you want to sleep well. Get out into the sun. So vitamin D levels are very important for brain function. They've done a lot of studies actually with Alzheimer's and vitamin D levels. Found that everybody who had Alzheimer's had deficient vitamin D levels. Okay, so another protective thing you can do for your brain. Turning off the TV. They have studied that and this is for anyone, I mean, TV can negatively affect your brain. You know, I mean, yeah, we watch nature shows and, you know, maybe Jeopardy challenges your mind. I mean, there's some good shows on TV, I'm not going to say that. But a lot of shows are kind of mindless, you know, and then we're programming our brain not to work. You know, all those reality TV shows and stuff like that, that's mindless. You know, it doesn't force the brain to function in any way, shape, or form. They've actually studied that shows children under the age of 3, it affects their social development, it affects their ability to pick up language if you have a child watch TV when they're at a young age. So only watch stimulating TV shows. And a good rule of thumb too is make sure for every hour of TV you watch, you do an hour of something else. Exercising, playing a board game, playing one of these games, getting on the Lumosity and challenging your brain, you know? So for every hour of, put it this way, every hour of mindless activity you should do, you should do an hour's worth of mindful activity. Protecting your brain from cell phones. Anybody heard about the Verizon wireless guy?
No.
Do you know the Verizon wireless guy?
Well,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh.
He's got an inoperable brain tumor.
Oh, wow.
For real?
Yeah.
Ah.
Hmm.
And believe me, they tried to keep it on the down low, but there's been a lot of articles written about it. The brain tumor was developed on the left side of his brain where he used his cell phone.
Ah.
He jokingly said, he's obviously a pretty cool guy. He jokingly said in an interview, yeah, I started using my cell phone on the right side of my body, so I have brain tumor balance.
Oh, so he realizes that's probably what the cause was.
Yeah.
Wow.
This study, this information's been confirmed in other countries. You will not hear about it in the United States. The reason you won't hear about it in the United States is because cell phones are the next cigarette. Okay? Remember cigarettes? My doctor smokes Camels, you know? And cigarettes are good for you, and they suppress your appetite, and all the health benefits of cigarettes. So the same thing is happening with cell phones right now. Thousands of studies are being done that prove that beyond a shadow of a doubt that they cause tumors. But it will be on the down low, on the down low, on the down low. They predict by 2025 that it will be the number one cause of, the number one cancer,
Whoa.
brain tumors.
2025?
Yep. It's not very long.
Those Bluetooths, are they?
They're not any better. So basically what happens is when you think of a microwave, you know, any kind of thing that emits a signal. Okay, if you have the satellite's up there, right? Okay, your cell phone's right here. Okay, what's being used is the
Your
conductor.
head. Yeah.
Okay, your brain's the conductor. Okay, so do I have a cell phone? Yes. Could I live without it? Yes, but probably not. I mean, really, it's unfortunately it's the world we live in. Okay, we've lived for thousands of years without cell phones, and now it's like you die if you don't have it for a day.
Yeah.
You know, you probably run more frantic after that than your child. I don't know, but it's just crazy how people are attached to their cell phones and addicted to their cell phones.
Yeah, really.
But when I have my cell phone, I do not have it in my pocket. Okay, I never ever have it in my pocket. I read a study one time that men who carry cell phones in their pockets have a lower testosterone count and a lower sperm cell count. Okay, so ever since I read that study, believe me, no cell phone in this pocket. Okay, I haven't had any children yet, but I'd like to. So, cell phones. I mean, people are going to say, oh, that's bull, the studies have been done, it doesn't cause... It's been done, okay? I have a CD full of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles if anybody's really interested. Okay, people live near power lines have higher rates of cancer. Okay, these things are known. Okay, doesn't mean we're going to stop using cell phones, but keep your phone away from you. One thing I do, it sounds silly, okay, but when I'm in my car, my phone's not in my pocket, I throw it on the floor of the passenger seat. I don't want it near me. When I'm at work, my phone's on the desk on the other side of me. Okay? This would be a good time to talk about grounding pads. Okay? All that electromagnetic chaos that causes problems in the body is offset immediately when you touch the earth barefoot. Okay? So if it's a nice day, talk on your cell phone barefoot, because guess what? It doesn't damage you. Yep, outdoors. You gotta be barefoot outdoors. You gotta be touching the earth.
Yeah, I'm going to go outside and take my call.
The grounding pads, if you're touching them, it offsets the cell phones, the laptops, all that electromagnetic chaos. I saw a really cool video by David Wolf, and he had his body hooked up to a scanner, and it showed the electrical frequencies on the computer screen. So he was by his laptop, and it showed the frequencies. The worst was the iPad. He picked up an iPad, and that thing was like bzzz.
Really?
Yeah, it just has tons of frequencies that is bombarding your body.
Wow.
When he touched the earthing mat, zip, it was gone. All that frequency was gone. And he literally, he's like, here, let me show you. And he took his big toe and he just touched his big toe on it. Bzz, gone. Totally
What's it
offset
made
all
out of?
that energy. It has metal fibers woven to it, but then you connect it to the third prong hole of your outlet, so it's connected to the ground wire. So it's connected to the
Really?
earth, to the ground.
Wow.
Yeah. And yeah, I've
It's
sold.
still connected. It's still connected electrically.
Yeah, there's no electricity. It's just connected to the ground.
That's good
And
work.
people sleep better. It normalizes cortisol levels, so it builds the adrenals. People get off thyroid medication. People wake up more rested. Pain goes away.
They put it
Headaches
on
go
a
away.
mattress?
Yeah. There's bed pads. There's bed sheets. There's all kinds of stuff.
Do they have to be barefoot for it to work?
You have to have skin touching it.
Oh,
Because you're a conductor. So we talk about the brain, it's water and minerals. Everything we are is water and minerals. So to be a conductor of electricity, you have to be touching it. You know, it's not going to go through your material. That's not a real good conductor. 100% cotton, if it's wet, yes. A lot of other materials we wear, no. So you have to be touching it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've also seen like on the internet they have like shields for your cell phone and stuff. Does any of that stuff really work?
I think it does.
Okay.
But here's the distinction I make. Okay? What you're trying to do is offset these negative frequencies with the earth. Okay, the earth is our infinite supply of good, healthy energy. Okay, we know that. We feel good when we're at the earth. We feel good when we're at the park or we're camping. You know, that's why we spend time outdoors. So if you take metal or quartz crystal or whatever and you wear it, it's going to have some protective benefit because that's from the earth. Okay? No way it's going to have the same benefit as if you're directly touching it.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you're on the earthing mat, you're directly connected to that energy. If you're barefoot in the park, you're directly connected to that energy. If you have a crystal, it's going to help a little bit, but you're not directly connected to that infinite power source. So that's the distinguish I make.
Okay.
So any other questions on cell phones? There was an art, I mean, I could show you so much stuff on cell phones, but there was 3 neurosurgeons that were interviewed by Larry King on CNN, and these 3 neurosurgeons said they do not hold their cell phones next to their ears. They're neurosurgeons. They know how it negatively affects the brain. They've seen it in people and operating on them. Okay? So if a neurosurgeon doesn't do it, I'm not doing it.
I don't do it. I always do speaker and it drives everyone crazy.
Yeah.
But I hate it.
Yeah.
I just hate it.
There's a product called Bluetooth, I think.
I don't
Not
know what that is.
Bluetooth, but it's a wired headphone.
Okay.
But there is not an electrical conductor between the headset and the phone. It does something through the tube, like sound waves through the tube,
Oh, okay.
so that you do not, so you can keep your phone away from you,
Oh, that's
but
interesting.
not have an electrical conductor. Because if you do have with wired ones, it's like an antenna,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bluetooth. There you go. I've checked that out.
yeah. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
Bluetooth, wasn't that
Tube.
transmitting also?
No, Bluetooth,
Bluetooth.
not Bluetooth.
Bluetooth.
Yeah, the Bluetooth is a transmitter. Absolutely. So 9 is avoiding foods that contain artificial sweeteners and additives. The big ones are NutraSweet and MSG. NutraSweet, MSG, Alzheimer's, dementia, NutraSweet, MSG, Alzheimer's, depression, on and on. Same thing over and over, repeated a million times. We know it. Okay, it's been studied, it's done. Okay, they cause these things. They're still grass generally recognized as safe by our FDA because we're stupid. Most other countries, like European countries, have outlawed these things. They're illegal, okay, because they damage people in a big time way. But they really damage your brain. NutraSweet, I should have put aspartame on there too. So if you're a diet soda drinking, you are destroying your brain. Okay, aspartame, MSG, those sweeteners are the worst. They collect in the fatty. Toxins in general store in fatty deposits of the body. Okay, what organ has the most fat?
Your brain.
Your brain. We talked about that in the beginning. Toxins and poisons store in the fat cells. Okay? Now your body has a protective mechanism. It's called the blood-brain barrier, and it keeps a lot of things from getting through. But man, with the constant barrage we give it, things get through. And you want to hear something really frightening? When you talk on your cell phone for more than 5 minutes, it opens up the blood-brain barrier for hours. So if you talk on your cell phone, you open up your blood-brain barrier, all the NutraSweet and everything you're drinking goes straight to your brain. So there's no need to eat these chemicals. Okay, we know how dangerous they are. So go ahead. No, go ahead.
You were just talking about detoxing from stuff. Does chlorella have any effect on
Yes.
that kind of stuff?
It does. Yeah,
Okay.
chlorella detoxes heavy metals out of the body.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's the
Well, what about the sweeteners though?
Yes. Yeah, it'll detox anything out of the
Okay.
body.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So there's a lot more we could talk about, but the big ones would be the NutraSweet, any artificial sweetener, the aspartame, the MSG. Those are the well-known ones. The other ones that are causing a lot of problems with children are the colors, the artificial colors, the FDC, blue lake, number 5, yellow, red dye, number 6. I don't know what those things are, but they're all coal tar derivatives. They're from coal. Okay,
Really?
they're oil. Yeah, they're oil-based. So are a lot of vitamins that people buy, but they're coal-based. Okay, I can see why children would be allergic to coal tar.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people literally who, if they consume something that has those in it, has an extreme reaction to it. You?
You just triggered a thought and a memory here. You know that they recently, within the last couple of years, started putting blue and red M&Ms in the peanut and M&Ms. I can pass a taste test with my eyes closed and tell you it's a blue or red.
Wow.
With my eyes closed, because the blue, can't tell you if it's blue, I can't tell you if it's red, but I can tell you that this is a blue or a red because they taste disgusting to me.
Wow.
Because of the
color.
colors.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
That is amazing.
Cool.
It's my stupid pet trick.
No, I like that. Yeah, there you go. That could be on Letterman. All right. Oh, is he still around?
Yeah.
Oh, he is?
Yeah,
Okay.
white socks and all.
Heart's still going.
Okay, so, and then 10 would be detox your brain. Okay, so what detoxes your brain? Minerals, okay, hydration. You can't get toxins out of your brain if it doesn't have an avenue for it to travel out of, okay? So you have to have those important things, the water, the minerals, the hydration, the essential fatty acids. But specific things that detox the brain would be, and the main things they've linked to, like Alzheimer's is aluminum. A lot of people have heard that. Mercury, okay? Mercury fillings and things like that. So those can store in your brain. And to detox those out, the best thing is zeolites.
What's that?
It's from volcanic activity.
How you spell it?
that's-
Zeolites.
That's in the audio, right?
The audio has trace amounts of zeolites, but if
Okay.
you want to detox the body, you want to take concentrated zeolite.
Okay.
And it's really not very expensive. A bottle of zeolite capsules, I think, is $21. So it's not a horribly expensive product. And it'll detox metals out of the body. Chlorella is excellent for detoxing heavy metals and toxins out of the body. Okay, and then I have
Does one of them do everything?
Does one of them do everything?
Yeah.
The zeolites would be the best. Absolutely. Yeah, so if you were just going to choose one that detoxes the most out, definitely do the zeolites. I have a homeopathic product called Metox. That's ME stands for metal. It's a metal detox too. So there's a lot of different things you can do to detox heavy metals out of the system as well. And other contaminants. The number one thing you can do to detox contaminants out of your body, cleanse your liver. Okay, a toxin doesn't store in your brain if your liver is able to process it and get rid of it. Everything that enters the body that's a contaminant to the body goes through the liver. So once you have liver problems, you have fatty liver, you have gallstones, you have things like that, then the liver's like, hey, I'm too busy. Where else can we put this? And the body starts to deposit things in different places. So you always want to work on the liver when it comes to detox. It is your workhorse. It is everything. I did a class on the liver. You can watch that. But liver is critically important for detoxing the body. Everything goes through the liver. So I would work on that too, especially if you had a brain issue. Yes?
Is raw sugar better than white sugar?
It's kind of a trick question.
I mean, you go to, I could buy get some coffee somewhere, you know, they don't have stevia.
Right.
You know, when you get aspartame or white sugar or raw sugar.
Yeah, if you have a choice, you get the raw sugar. Yeah, if that's your only choice, absolutely.
You okay with stevia?
Absolutely. Yeah, stevia is great. There's no sugar in stevia. It's just a sweet plant. So, yeah, diabetics, anybody who needs